Hi, welcome to today's book break. I'm Roger. Today I'll be reading a little bit of the classic The Iron Giant by Ted Hughes. It's a great, fast-paced story geared toward grades 3 and up. So with that said, let's get started. One evening, a farmer's son, a boy called Hogarth, was fishing in a stream that ran down to the sea. It was growing too dark to fish. His hook kept getting caught in weeds and bushes. So he stopped fishing and came up from the stream and stood listening to the owls in the woods further up the valley. And he listened to the sea behind him. "Hush," said the sea, and again, "Hush, hush, hush." Suddenly, he felt a strange feeling. He felt he was being watched. He felt afraid. He turned and looked up the steep field to the top of the high cliff. Behind the skyline was the sheer rocky cliff and the sea. And on that skyline, just above the edge of it, in the dusk, were two green lights. What were two green lights doing on top of the cliff? Then, as Hogarth watched, a huge dark figure climbed over the cliff top. The two lights rose into the sky. They were the giant figure's eyes, a giant black figure taller than a house, black and towering in the twilight with green headlight eyes, an iron giant. There he stood on the cliff top, looking inland. Hogarth began to run. He ran and ran. He ran until he was home. So he got home at last, gasping for air. He told his dad, "An iron giant, an iron man, a giant. I saw him." His father frowned. His mother grew pale. His little sister began to cry. His father believed his son, and he went out. He locked the door. He got in his car, and he drove to the next farm. But the farmer laughed. "An iron giant? Nonsense," he said. So Hogarth's father got back in the car. Now it was dark and it began to rain very hard. He drove to the next farm. That farmer frowned. "An iron giant? Nonsense." So Hogarth's father again got back into his car. But as he turned the car in the yard, he saw a strange thing in the headlights. Half a tractor lay there, just half, chopped clean off, the other half missing. He got out of his car, and the other farmer came to look too. The tractor had been bitten off. There were big teeth marks in the steel. No explanation. The two men looked at each other. They were puzzled and afraid. The farmer ran inside and bolted his door. Hogarth's father jumped into his car and drove off into the night and into the rain as fast as he could, heading home. The rain poured down. Hogarth's father drove hard. The headlights lit up the road. Suddenly, two headlights in a tall treetop at the roadside ahead. Headlights in a treetop, but how? Hogarth's father slowed down, peering up to see what the lights might be. As he slowed, a giant iron foot came down in the middle of the road, a foot as big as a single bed. And the headlights came down closer, and a giant hand reached down toward the windshield. The iron giant! Hogarth's father put on speed. He aimed his car at the foot. Crash! He knocked the foot out of the way. He drove on faster and faster, and behind him on the road, a clanging, clattering boom went up, as if an iron skyscraper had collapsed. The Iron Man, with his foot knocked out from under him, had toppled over. And so Hogarth's father got home safely. But the next morning, all the farmers were shouting with anger. Where were their tractors, their earth diggers, their plows? From every farm in the region, all the steel and iron farm machinery had gone. Where to? Who had stolen it? There was a clue. Here and there lay half a wheel, or half an axle, or half a mudguard, carved with giant tooth marks where it had been bitten off. How had it been bitten off? Steel bitten off? What had happened? There was another clue. From farm to farm, over the soft soil of the fields, went giant footprints, each one the size of a single bed. The farmers, in a frightened, silent, amazed crowd, followed the footprints. And at every farm the footprints had visited, all the metal machinery had disappeared. Finally, the footprints led back up to the cliff top where the little boy had seen the iron giant appear the night before. the footprints led right to the cliff top, and all the way down the cliff were torn marks in rocks where a huge iron body had slid down. The Iron Giant had gone into the sea. The furious farmers began to shout. The Iron Giant had stolen all their machinery. Had he eaten it? What had he done with it? Anyway, he had taken it. It had gone. What if he came again? What would he take next time? Would he take cows, houses, people? They would have to do something. They couldn't call the police or the army because nobody would believe them about the iron monster. They would have to do something themselves. So what did they do? Check out The Iron Giant and find out what they do. It's a great read. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us at youthservices@olpl.org. Thanks so much. Hey, have a great day. Bye now.